Hey everybody, Matt Barton here with this week's Broker Minute or Two. Hopefully you had a great 4th of July, got to get together with friends, family, celebrate Independence Day, and now we're back at it. This week's Broker Tip Minute is unfortunately regarding another fraud, yet another fraud that's going around. And so in the office, we get things like this all the time, FedEx package and somebody paid the $20 or whatever to send us a check. And in this case, it was for earnest money. And, I get the check and it looks wonderful. And you hold it up to the light. It's even got the watermark and everything. And I'll put the check up on screen here so you can see it. This one happened to be for $120,000. Now, interestingly, whoever did this, I'm assuming that English is not their first language because they put cashier check, and it's actually a cashier's, like possessive apostrophe S check. So that's one of the things, to tip you off. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, looks very legit and move forward. So how does this fraud work? Right? What happens is, and it's not always 120,000. It could be $12,000. In fact, it'd be more feasible. It wouldn't be as scrutinized if it was a more reasonable amount. So the fraudsters get greedy and they kind of slit their own throats. But whether 12,000 or 120,000, this earnest money gets deposited into our account. Now, listen, our accounting department's very good and thorough, and we actually have a policy that we won't cut a check back to a client by way of earnest money unless the funds have cleared. That sometimes is an annoyance for people, but hopefully this helps you understand what having good policy and process in place does for not only you, but clients and the company. So, but anyway, the way this fraud typically plays out is you go under contract. In our case, the agent did get assigned an acceptance on this contract. And then we, of course, caught this when we were trying to deposit the earnest money. It's like, whoa, something's wrong here. But if somebody's not paying attention, if you're a smaller brokerage or you don't have good process in place, you might make that entry in your back end system saying, yep, we have $12,000 or $120,000 of earnest money. And 2 days later, the client reaches out and says, you know what, I'm not interested in the property. I want to cancel this and I need my earnest money back. That is the fraud. And for people who aren't paying attention, they might cut that check and send it back and then get a surprise that there was never any funds in the first place, and now their trust account is way out of balance. So what to do for you? Whether it's this fraud or if it's the vacant lot fraud that's so common right now, there's some commonalities with this, and I want this to stick in your brain. If you're talking to somebody, and it's almost always via email, occasionally there's a phone conversation, but the people refuse to meet in person. And I mentioned this before. There is nothing wrong if you're going to interact with somebody online to demand some proof of who they are, driver, and they can still pull off a fraud with this, but it's at least makes it more and more challenging. Show me a photo ID of who you are next to your face so I can see that we're talking the same person. But you may want to go the extra step, especially if it's a lot or anybody that would know who this individual is to verify. And of course, if you ever have, trust your radar. If you have a sneaky suspicion that it's sketchy, it's almost always that you're right. Occasionally you're not, but hey, it's worth the risk to be extra cautious. So just know this is yet another fraud that's going around. If you have somebody who reaches out, it can be realtor.com, it can be Zillow, it can be calling from a yard sign. Just be aware that if they're only communicating via email, in this case, our agent reached back out to the phone number that had been provided, and that didn't work, and there's excuses for that. But for most of the people in society who are doing a transaction like this, they have no problem with verification. They have no problem with providing physical proof of who they are. It's kind of like when you go to a store and they ask to see the back of your card that has a photo or your signature or whatever the case may. I'm always appreciative of that. I don't find it an annoyance at all. In fact, I almost always tell the clerks, thank you for doing that. So there you go. Just be aware this one's going around and will probably go around for some time. And oh, by the way, just on the tail end of this, if you ever get a text that says, I'm asking you to go purchase a gift card, to scratch off the code behind it and send the code to me, I promise you, I will never do that. It's a fraud. That one is so old and so tired, but still goes around, and sometimes people still fall for it. So be cautious, be aware, and just go do a good book of business. All right, guys, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.